Hey, my name's Paul Zajac.
And I'm Rob Egan.
Welcome to Boss Battles.
This is where we take live play and sports commentary and smash them up.
Kind of. So today's is a different kind of episode in that there's not a battle following this. It's just like you have to watch us talk for a little while, which already people have like dropped off. The viewing curve has like gone down already. But we're introducing a concept for how we're going to be doing our show for like the probably over the next year.
Yeah.
And it's called Boss Battles, the League. All right. So what else do you have to say about it?
We have a lot of interested players. We already have teams set up, and we're ready to go to start telling out what the rules are. So this video is just to let everyone know, whether you're in the league or not, how we're going to run the rules. Yes,
right. First thing is the league is going to be 20 episodes, and all the episodes are going to be from like level 1 through level 20, and it's going to be run off of the new 2024 Player's Handbook.
Exactly. So that means that the teams then will never play. They're never going to play the same level. They'll always have like every team will play their own unique level at different tiers of play between levels 1 and 20.
Right, and I think that there was like a lot of questions about this early on, and there was like some back and forth about what it would be, and so we do want to clarify that
yeah.
this is not like an apples to apples comparison. Each team is going to get 4 chances to play, and each episode will be a unique episode going from levels 1 through 20, and then we've come up with a way to try and score the episodes and fairly as fairly as we can compare them.
Exactly. And also to get started off, each team will also be playing at least one of the tiers of play. For this league, the tiers of play are going to start from levels 1 through 5 because we have 5 teams. Now I know technically the first tier is 1 to 4, with 5 being a big jump. And we have a way to kind of balance that out as well.
Yeah. So then our tiers of play are going to be through 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, and then 16 through 20.
Exactly.
And each tier is going to kind of represent its own section, and each team is going to receive like a ranking within that tier. And so that also means that if you do badly in one tier, there's a chance to like come back and do well in another tier. That's one of the reasons we're splitting it up like this.
Right. We want to make sure that if you get start off on a bad foot, you're not there for the entire league. Now, each episode, like we said, is going to be a unique encounter. So there's never going to be the same encounter twice. The encounters are going to be based on either an actual play that's been run by our guest commentators, some of which you've seen in the past, or a previously run adventure that's been taken from published materials. The reason we're going to do this is that we want to make sure that all the adventures have had some sort of playtesting and are nice and balanced. We really want to minimize the differences that we would have in the appropriate difficulty that would come up with just.
Yeah, and I specifically want to limit blowback against myself. Hey, this adventure sucked. What are you doing? So it's going to be somebody else's adventure. It's not just me. Rob's a better DM, but I think nobody's infallible. And so we want to like shift the blame onto other people. No, personally, yes, that's what we want to do. But really, we want to make it as fair as possible.
We definitely want to make it as fair as possible. We haven't released the UNT episode yet, so hold your tongue and say I'm better at this.
Right. Yeah.
That may not have been as fair.
We both get fair criticism in that episode. Okay, so talking about the characters. The scoring. So each episode is going to be scored on the basis of some of both objective and subjective criteria, and we're going to get to that in a little bit.
Yep.
And there's going to be multiple judges involved in judging each of the episodes, not just me and Rob.
Yep. When all tiers are complete, we'll take the overall ranking based on each team's performance with each tier, and then calculate that. Based on this final ranking, we're going to take the top 2 teams and we're going to play one more adventure. The rankings of these final 2 adventures will determine the ultimate victor.
Yeah, so kind of a playoff between 2 teams at the end. And we're thinking that we're going to let each team like choose what level of adventure they want to play at. In case they feel that their team came together best at a certain level. I think there's a lot of things we could probably do with that, and we'll probably change it around a bit. Okay.
Do you want to talk about the classes?
Yeah. So the classes and subclasses. First, there's got to be at least one of each class in the league, and so if it's coming towards the end of our lottery and nobody's like selected druid, well, somebody's gonna have to play druid. Also, there's only to be one of each subclass in the league, and so that means that there's definitely scarcity of your favorite subclass, which I think is gonna be fun, right?
I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
If you've been following along with the videos that have been released for the up and coming 2024 edition of the Player's Handbook, you'll also notice that every class has 4 subclasses. So this means that we have 5 teams. There's going to be at least one class missing from one of those teams. There's only 4 fighters available.
Yeah.
So not every team's gonna be able to get a fighter.
Right.
Which also means that there's not going to be any duplicate subclasses. And like you were saying, Paul, at the end, if you are toward the end of the draft and there are some classes that have yet to be picked, your hand might be forced to go to one of those classes.
Yes. Additionally, we're not allowing multiclassing. And then in terms of the other 2 things that affect your character build, the species, which they're not calling race anymore, it's calling species, and then a background. We are not limiting which type of species or background you can choose. There can be duplicates in that. I think it would have been just too complicated to track those things.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Where are we at here?
So, talking about the lottery.
Yeah, well, so the players mostly know already, but yeah, we're gonna have a lottery, which we'll make into an episode, kind of like a draft pick.
Yes.
And pull a ping pong ball out of the thing and announce, and people will get to choose on the spot. We're gonna allow for trades if people want to trade, like on the day of or after. To a certain, we'll set a deadline that you can I really want to play a paladin, and they couldn't get it.
Yeah, because there's a really good chance that the team composition that a team might have come up with,
Right.
they don't get to fulfill because of the lottery. Like I was saying earlier, that fighter example, maybe it was a cleric, and then they realize that they don't have a healer on their team and they need to trade for a healer. So we're going to allow for that trade to be done between the teams prior to filming our first adventure.
We didn't talk about, there's going to be substitute characters in case somebody like the last second has to cancel. We want to have substitute players on tap, and they're going to be unique characters as well. And potentially that same character could come back and play for a different team if there's somebody missing, which I think that would be fun actually to see how they interact with other teams.
Yeah, I would love to see, I like to see that as well.
I think why don't you talk about like what's going to happen mid-season?
Yes. Sorry, I lost track, and
okay,
maybe you can talk about it.
Mid-season, we're gonna have an all-star game.
There you go. Thank you.
And so it's gonna be not me or Rob. We don't want to be like biased towards players, but the individual players can vote, the viewers can vote, and the guest DMs can vote on who their favorite players were, and we'll take 4, and they'll be in like a mid-season adventure that will not count towards the rankings, but should be fun just to watch how like different characters come together. And I think that's basically it for the rules. So the things I guess to go over, like I made another section in my little handout of like things it's not going to be. We talked about it already, but it's not going to be an apples to apples comparison. One team runs through an adventure, the next team runs through the same adventure, and we compare them. I mean, there's a lot of merit to that, and that's how some tournament play works. It'd just be a nightmare to run or to construct in an editing standpoint.
And also from the viewer perspective, you may not want to see the same,
that's right.
the same battle 5 times.
It's funny. I'm a big Dungeon Dudes fan. I'm listening to their live play. I'm catching up, and so right now they're in a portion where there's like a duel, and they're doing something called the Caspian duel, where in fact the different contestants fight different monsters. So there is some precedent for this type of duel or competition. And like if it's trademark, we'll call it like a Caspian duel or something.
But again, every battle we're going to take from already released material that has been play tested for that level of play.
Right, and that could leave a real opportunity for some like fun epic battles, right? Like maybe we'll do a Strahd episode, or maybe we'll like things that people really want to fight or have heard about fight.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's talk about how we're going to judge it.
That sounds great.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah, so we're going to have so there's going to be some subjective and objective judging and criteria for these matches. Every subjective criteria is going to carry a value from 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. The baseline will be a 3, if that's just average and it's good. We're going to see that the 3 representatives,
Three represents like what?
Thank you.
Your average player who comes and has fun on like a night playing D&D. That's like really good. So 3 is good. It's not. We're not like on Yelp, and we don't get like negative ratings if you don't leave a 5. No, the average is going to be 3, and I expect that most of our scores are going to be around 3.
Yeah.
With the extremes are going to be extreme, right? Like rarely like somebody's going to put in an awesome performance, like Marlon Brando shows up. That would be a 5, right? And then my example in the text was that, something poor would be like, my character wants to perception the room. Like, if you're kind of like metagaming, just not doing, which most people don't do, but that's like the extreme that would represent a 1.
And yeah, we also want to make sure that we have these subjective materials in there to really show why D&D shines and just other tabletop role-playing games, is because it's not just about the combat. There are plenty of systems for that, but there's also these other deeper pieces as well. So the subjective criteria is going to be role play. So like you don't have to do accents, but if you want to, or if you want to speak in the first person, all of that would kind of go over. But just as long as you're having fun and really getting into the role play of your character in a situation.
So another example that came to my mind in our episode. Where there was that ambush at a party. I remember. I think it was Vagard's character. He said he didn't act it really. He's like, my character gets on the table. He's a bard. He flips his hair and does something. Like I thought that was like a really cool description. To me, that would have been a 5. And so you don't have to wear a costume and put an accent on. Like that's not you could get a 5 for that, but that's not the only way you could get.
But really just kind of going into it. Exactly. Yeah. Next is originality. So are you doing the same, do you have the same strategy every battle in and out? Are you using the same spells? Are you using the same, really kind of key pieces to win that battle? Or are you mixing it up and bringing something new and using the environment or the story around you to kind of help with you in the encounter?
Also across encounters, like if somebody's going to use spiritual weapons, spirit guardians, because like they do, but like if every episode turns out like that, there's going to be some like 2s and 1s popping up for originality.
Exactly. Next we have teamwork, which, this one's pretty self-explanatory. If you've played any sort of tabletop role-playing game, it's all about teamwork. We want to make sure that everyone's working together. And this isn't necessarily having to if you do want to do combined actions or set someone else up for a play, that's great teamwork. Helping out others, making sure instead of taking the spotlight, or really kind of making sure your buffs are out there, those sort of things.
Yeah. Next is going to be being a thoughtful and courteous player. Some of this we covered with the teamwork, but not hogging the spotlight, helping your other players shine, being ready when you take your turn, knowing what you're going to do. And being like, that's the end of my turn. Things that make it easier for everybody, for the players and the DMs, for a game to run smoothly. I think everybody notices that, and that's going to be worth something.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for the last piece is just the overall impression. Like, was it a fun episode to watch? Was it entertaining? Did the team really kind of do well?
Yeah, right. And that's also self-explanatory. Okay, so we're going to move on to the objective criteria. I'll do the first one, which is basically like, did you complete the objective? Did you kill the bad guy? And that's going to be pretty straightforward, yes or no.
Yep. We also want to know how quickly did the party achieve its objective. We're going to have the completion of the episode in rounds 1 or 2 gets a 5. If you end it in round 3, you get a 4. Rounds 4 and 5 are 3. Round 6 gets a 2. And anything that's 7 rounds or longer will get a 1. So how quickly can you get this encounter?
I think that if kind of fair, like 3 combat ending on round 4 or 5, I think that's pretty normal, and so that's why those are going to be 3. And then, like at the other extremes, you'll get more points or fewer points.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna track the damage dealt to damage taken as a ratio, and so again, this is like we thought an objective criteria that would be transferable across levels. It doesn't, it's not like absolute how much damage you do, but relative to your opponents.
Yeah, exactly. And then also the attack hit percentage. Again, we're doing percentage, not number of attacks landed, because there are going to be some classes that will get more attacks. But yeah.
So that will be for martial attacks and spell attacks. And then we'll do percent of the time your opponents fail a saving throw. So that will be most often for spellcasters, right, who are imposing saving throws. But are opponents succumbing to your non-spell attack spells? I think that's a valuable stat.
And then finally, the percent of success in subjecting opponents to unfavorable conditions. So this would be: are you casting Bane on them? Are you making them skip a turn either because you had like hold person or hold monster on them? How are you making it so that you're making the opponents
do your grapples work?
Yeah. Are you knocking them prone?
Right. And so if you try and you succeed, that counts towards you. If you fail, that counts against you.
Yeah.
So the next caveat is that, like, again, one of the reasons we set it up in tiers of play is that if these criteria, like especially the objective ones that we're measuring, turn out to be like, this sucks, well, we can change it, right? But we'll change it after a tier of play is finished. So everybody has to get the sucky thing once, but then we'll change it to something better. And we're also, at least I'm open to considering other criteria that the viewers or players may think would be interesting to track. We do ask that if you suggest something, you also consider about like how it's going to be done, because again, like. It is very different to think about producing something like this versus just playing it, and I've noticed that from like starting a YouTube channel, from just like being a player. Like there's like way other things you have to think about behind the scenes, because small things you wouldn't really think about could take a lot of time to do.
Right, and I think a good example there, not to say that we can't do this, but something to think about through the whole way is maybe like tracking 1s and 20s. That might sound simple on the very easy, if there's 1 in 20, but when you're in the heat of it, it might be difficult to go back or have to review the tapes. So
yeah, right. So we take that into consideration. We also reserve the right to just kindly say no, like we're not going to do that. And we hope we don't offend people. So who are the judges?
Well, I don't think it should be any surprise that you're going to be a judge.
Yeah.
And so am I.
Right.
So it's gonna we're going to be the judges, and our guest commentators are going to be the judges.
And also, the players are going to be judges,
yes.
Which I think that as well is like something some people are like, well, why? I mean, that doesn't make sense. But how we're going to do is this: it's going to be anonymous, and on a rotating basis, one player from each team is going to review the episode, except for the team that's in the episode, right? So that means there's going to be four players from different teams watching the episode, and those 4 players will come up with their subjective scores, and then we'll figure out a way for them to submit it anonymously, so we don't know which player's saying what. And then with the player scores, we're going to drop 2 of the scores. We're going to drop the high score and the low score. So that assures people from going, that team had it in for me. Well, maybe they did or they didn't. But if you vote extremely, it's just going to be dropped.
Right. Yeah, we don't want you sandbagging another team in the subjective scoring, and we're just going to be But if there's a consistent scores, well, those will show up in the middle.
Right. So overall, towards the scoring of each episode, the subjective scores, there's going to be 5 judges. Me, you, the guest judge, and then we're going to keep 2 out of the 4 player submissions, and those will be averaged out. That will be the subjective component of the score, and then the objective component will be another portion of the score, and that is what's going to determine a rank for each episode, and then we're going to compare each episode on the basis of those ranks.
And then we'll be able to come up with a top team for each tier, and then eventually a top team across the whole league.
The whole team, yeah. And the top 2 will play in a playoff. And That's it. Yeah. So I'm sure there's going to be like a lot of questions. I think there'll be a lot of questions.
I hope. Well, I don't hope there's not. I don't hope there's a lot of questions. I hope there's a lot of conversation.
Yeah. Right. So I'm going to post this, the written version, on the YouTube site, so you can look for the written version below the episode. And then you can get back to us on our Discord. If you're not already in our Discord, join the Discord. The information's on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think that's it. And,
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see you next time on Boss Battles.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.